Picture this. It is 2026. You are standing in front of a glowing facial recognition check-in kiosk that absolutely refuses to read your face.
Oh, the classic biometric freeze.
Right. An automated voice is telling you to step aside.
Yeah.
The line behind you is sighing heavily, and a human agent is just nowhere to be found.
Nowhere. They're basically extinct in the main lobby.
Exactly. And you just turned 60, you follow the rules your whole life, yet every time you step into an airport lately, you are actively losing money, energy, and, frankly, your patience.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
It really is.
Yep.
And the thing is, if you do not know the exact federal laws protecting you in this moment, this piece of plastic machinery is about to cost you your vacation.
Well, it feels like the entire infrastructure is designed to penalize you just for showing up, you know?
Right.
The airport of 2026 operates like a facility built by robots, exclusively for robots.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
We are seeing this massive industry-wide shift toward digital kiosks, biometric scanning, app-only boarding, and travelers over 65 are just being left to navigate this incredibly stressful, tech-heavy maze with zero guidance.
Which brings us to our mission today in this deep dive. We're going to hand you the map to that exact maze.
Absolutely.
We're going to unlock the hidden legal rights, the secret magic phrases, and the specific digital survival tactics that airlines, frankly, pray you never discover.
I really do.
Right, because we are moving you entirely out of the mindset of asking for airline favors and shifting you into the mindset of claiming your federally protected rights.
And that distinction, I mean, that is the foundation of our entire defense strategy today. They want you to feel like any assistance you ask for is a burden on them, like you're holding up the line.
Right, the guilt trip.
Exactly. But the reality is there's a hidden door that opens the moment you hit a certain age, complete with legally binding protections. You just need to know how to turn the knob.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before you even pull your suitcase out of the closet, the airlines are already testing your knowledge.
Oh, yeah. The test starts at the booking phase.
Right. We need to dissect how you actually buy the ticket and secure your boarding pass without falling into these new automated traps.
Because there's a massive misconception out there.
That simply plugging your dates into a comparison site is giving you the definitive best price.
Exactly. The mechanism behind those search engines, that's where the trap actually lies.
How so?
Well, when you search online using a major aggregator, you're pinging a public API, an application programming interface.
Okay.
That system pulls raw pricing data from the airlines. But here's the critical flaw. Those public APIs, they do not have a data field for demographic inputs like age.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The algorithm has a total blind spot. It automatically defaults to assuming you are a standard adult paying the absolute maximum retail price. Major carriers like United, Delta, American, they do still maintain senior discounts in their internal databases. They just don't broadcast them to the search engines.
Wait, if the airlines have the discounts, why wouldn't they want them advertised online to attract more buyers?
Because airline revenue management is entirely based on yielding the highest possible dollar amount per seat.
Oh, right. Maximize profit.
Exactly. If they can quietly fill a plane with people paying full price via an app, they absolutely will.
Unbelievable.
The discounted fares are kept in what they call unpublished inventory buckets. And the only way to access those specific inventory buckets is to force a human booking agent to manually override the default search.
Which means you actually have to pick up the phone and bypass the digital wall entirely.
You do, you have to call them.
And there is a perfect example of this from our sources. A retired teacher from Boston recently booked a flight to Miami online through a standard portal.
Yep, I remember this one.
2 days later, she decides to call American Airlines directly. She doesn't just ask for a generic deal. She mentions she is 67.
And what happens?
The agent pulls up her reservation and instantly finds the exact same flight, the same seat on the same date for $53 less.
See, the phrasing she used is the absolute key to unlocking that database.
Right.
Because you cannot just call and ask, hey, do you have any discounts? That just prompts the agent to look at generic summer sales or whatever.
So what's the magic phrase?
You must ask specifically, do you have a senior fare available for a passenger over 65?
Ah, okay.
That exact string of words acts as a verbal command. It essentially forces the agent to tab over to the unpublished fare classes and verify your eligibility.
And while you have that agent on the phone, here is a major warning for you. Never purchase basic economy.
Never. Just don't do it.
I know a price tag looks appealing, but I'm struggling to understand why anyone over 60 would voluntarily choose it once they realize how the seating software actually works.
Yeah, the software behind Basic Economy literally locks you out of the seat map completely. When you buy a standard ticket, the digital map opens, and you pick your spot. With Basic Economy, your specific ticket class is blocked from making a selection until the very end of the boarding process.
So you're just at their mercy.
Yes, the computer algorithm automatically assigns you whatever is left over after literally every other passenger has boarded.
Which means you are mathematically guaranteed to end up in a middle seat, right?
Pretty much.
In the very back row, pressed against the bulkhead, far away from the lavatory.
Exactly.
And on a 5-hour flight, that is not just an inconvenience. That is a genuine hit to your physical health and comfort.
Precisely. You are sacrificing bodily autonomy to save, $30? It's not worth it.
Not at all.
Now, assuming you have booked a standard ticket and secured your seat, you face the next hurdle, the 2026 digital check-in trap.
Right, the lobby.
You arrive at the airport, and the massive lobby express lines are now geofenced. They are exclusively reserved for passengers using the airline's smartphone app.
And the physical lines, the ones with actual human beings, they're completely understaffed.
Barely anyone working them.
I read about a gentleman in Denver just last month who entirely missed his flight to see his grandkids.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
He was standing in a physical line for 40 minutes, helplessly watching the clock tick down, just waiting for a human to print a simple paper ticket.
And the airlines know this. They are intentionally creating friction in the physical lines to force adoption of their apps.
Wow.
But there is a brilliant workaround built right into their own software. It's called the Trusted Companion feature.
How does that work?
A family member, say, a daughter living across the country, can log into the app, check you in remotely using her phone, and email you the boarding pass.
Okay.
And then you just print that pass on standard paper at home before you even leave for the airport.
Wait, if the airlines are completely automating their lobbies, isn't relying on a printed piece of paper from home a bit outdated, aren't we just setting people up to be rejected at the gate?
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but think of that physical piece of paper as a master key that bypasses software failures.
Okay, listening.
Automated systems are incredibly fragile. Apps crash when terminal Wi-Fi drops. Biometric kiosks freeze if your face doesn't perfectly match the geometry of a 10-year-old passport photo.
Which happens all the time.
Exactly. And when the digital system goes down, the gate agent has to manually scan something to let you on the plane. Having a printed barcode in your hand means you are completely immune to their server outages. You just scan the paper and walk right past the chaos.
That makes the paper pass the ultimate insurance policy.
It really is.
So you've bypassed the kiosk with your physical ticket. The automated system failed to stop you, so now it targets the heaviest thing you're dragging behind you.
The luggage.
The luggage drop.
Yeah.
This is where airlines extract billions of dollars through sheer passenger ignorance, especially regarding the strict new medication rules.
Yes. And this is where we really have to leverage the Air Carrier Access Act.
The ACAA.
Under federal law, medical equipment flies absolutely free.
Free.
It does not count toward your standard carry-on limit, and it does not count toward your checked bag limit, period.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If I know that medical bags fly free, what is stopping me from taking my CPAP machine carrying case, stuffing 3 heavy wool sweaters and a pair of boots inside it, and declaring it a medical bag to dodge a $50 fee?
Well, gate agents and TSA officers are highly trained to perform random physical audits of declared medical bags.
So they do check.
Oh, they check. And if they open your CPAP case and find a wool sweater, the federal exemption is instantly voided.
Thanks.
The mechanism is strict. The bag must contain only the medical device and its immediate accessories. But if you actually follow that rule, the savings are massive.
What else does it cover?
It covers portable oxygen concentrators, insulin coolers, walkers, canes, all of it.
And the enforcement of this can be completely transformed just by knowing your rights. There was a 70-year-old diabetic traveler flying to Seattle recently. He approaches the gate, and the agent flags his medical cooler, telling him his bags are too large and attempting to charge an $85 penalty fee.
Unbelievable. What did he do?
He didn't argue. He just calmly stated, "These are medically necessary items."
Woo.
Right. That specific phrase forces the agent to back down, check the internal compliance system, and waive the fee instantly. $0.
It's all about the phrasing. And beyond the strict federal laws, there are also unpublished perks globally if you know how to navigate foreign airline policies.
Like international flights.
Yeah. Air India, for instance, operates an internal policy where they quietly grant an extra 10 kilograms of checked baggage allowance on international flights for anyone aged 60 and older.
That's over 20 pounds.
Exactly. But it isn't advertised on their homepage. You simply have to request the senior baggage allowance at the counter.
But getting the bag on the plane is really only part of the equation. We need to dissect the rapidly changing protocols for what actually goes inside those bags, specifically regarding the new 2026 battery regulations.
This is a huge one.
If you use an electric mobility scooter, you cannot just casually roll it down the jet bridge anymore. Ramp agents now are aggressively demanding technical proof before they load it.
And the underlying reason for that is thermal runaway.
Right, battery fires.
Lithium batteries in the cargo hold are a massive fire risk if their voltage is too high. So the new mechanism for enforcement requires you to physically tape the manufacturer's technical specification sheet directly to the battery casing.
Directly to the battery itself.
Yes, the ramp agent needs to instantly verify the watt-hour rating. If they cannot visually confirm the voltage on that printed sheet, they have the federal authority to deny your mobility device right there on the tarmac.
And the strictness extends from the cargo hold right into your carry-on, especially concerning daily medications.
On the pill organizers.
Right. We all know those incredibly convenient plastic daily pill organizers, the ones with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday snapped on the top.
Everyone uses those.
But the rules have drastically shifted, and you can no longer use them to transport medication through security.
Yeah, the mechanism behind this change is the deployment of advanced AI security scanners at customs and TSA checkpoints.
These new machines are wild.
They don't just look at shapes anymore. They cross-reference the density of the items in your bag with a digital database.
Okay.
So if the machine detects a dense cluster of unknown organic matter, which is exactly what a pile of mixed pills looks like, it flags the bag. The 2026 protocols demand that pills remain in their original pharmacy bottles with the prescription barcodes clearly visible.
So mechanically, if an agent pulls your bag, they need to be able to scan that pharmacy barcode to instantly verify that the chemical density matches the prescription.
Exactly.
It's like packing a parachute. You hope you don't need emergency medical info, but a plastic box labeled Tuesday isn't going to save your life if a paramedic needs to know your dosage.
That's a great point. It is entirely about data verification, both for security software and for emergency medical responders.
Okay, so your bags are packed correctly, your medical devices are flying for free, and your paperwork is taped to your scooter.
Check, check, check.
Next, you have to physically cross the massive expanse of the modern airport. Surviving the mile-long terminals and the TSA security gauntlet requires a very specific strategy.
It really does. Because airports have physically expanded so much to accommodate larger aircraft, turning terminal navigation into an endurance sport.
It's miles of walking.
It is. But here again, the Air Carrier Access Act is your primary defense. It legally guarantees you a curb-to-gate wheelchair or an electric cart escort.
I understand why people might feel embarrassed or hesitant to ask for a wheelchair if they can technically walk. How do we shift that mindset? Because many listeners might think, well, I don't use a wheelchair at home, so I shouldn't take one from someone who really needs it.
I hear that all the time. But the law does not require a doctor's note. No. If you experience minor balance issues, or if the sheer exhaustion of a 2-mile walk threatens to ruin the first day of your trip, you are legally qualified to use the service. We have to completely reframe how we view the airport wheelchair.
How so?
It's not a symbol of medical defeat. It is simply a mechanical travel tool.
Oh, I like that.
Think about it. You would never drag 80 pounds of clothing in a sack over your shoulder. You use a suitcase with wheels to preserve your energy.
Right.
The electric cart serves the exact same mechanical purpose for your body.
That makes perfect sense. But the critical warning for 2026 is the scheduling mechanism. You cannot just show up and expect a cart to be waiting.
Oh, absolutely not.
You must input your request into the airline system 48 hours in advance.
And this comes down to automated labor allocation. The software that dictates airport staffing assigns human attendants days in advance based purely on registered passenger needs.
So if you aren't in the system,
If you don't register, the algorithm literally does not staff a person for you. You get pushed to a standby list.
Which is how we end up with horror stories.
Exactly. There was a highly publicized case of a woman recovering from hip surgery who was forced to stand in agony for an hour at the check-in counter because every available attendant was locked into serving pre-booked passengers. The system just cannot help you if it doesn't know you're coming.
And if you are traveling with someone who isn't flying, you do not have to navigate this alone.
Right, the escort pass.
You can approach the check-in counter and request a non-passenger escort pass. This is a specialized gate pass that allows a daughter or a friend to walk you all the way through the terminal, right to your departure gate, acting as your personal navigator.
Which is huge. And that brings us to the actual security checkpoint.
The dreaded TSA.
Yeah. If you call the TSA Cares hotline 72 hours before your departure, the system assigns a trained specialist to meet you at the curb.
Wait, they meet you at the curb?
Yes. They act as a personal escort, guiding you through the entire screening process, completely bypassing the standard queues.
That's amazing.
And furthermore, if you're 75 or older, the system automatically triggers a modified screening protocol. You are permitted to keep your shoes and light jackets on without having to pay a dime for pre-check.
However, we do need to address the new 2026 CT scanners.
Oh, yes.
Because these machines are incredibly sensitive. And if you have a joint replacement, a pacemaker, or any kind of internal implant, the physics of these scanners will cause problems.
Major problems.
You need to utilize the free TSA notification card. You download it, print it, and hand it to the officer silently before you step into the machine.
The communication mechanism here is vital. By proactively handing them the card, you prevent the machine from triggering a localized alarm and drawing unnecessary attention.
Nobody wants that.
And for pacemakers, the protocol is even stricter. You must explicitly demand a manual pat-down.
Why is that?
Because the magnetic wands they use for secondary screening generate electromagnetic fields that can actively interfere with the calibration of older pacemakers.
That sounds incredibly dangerous.
It is. You have the absolute right to refuse the wand, request a private screening room, and demand a chair to sit on while they conduct the manual check.
Okay, so you've survived the magnetic wands, you bypassed the terminal marathon, and your dignity is perfectly intact.
You made it.
Now you are staring down the boarding gate. How do you bypass the stampede and secure your space on the aircraft?
Yeah.
Because pre-boarding is a legal right, not a first-class privilege.
Exactly. And the mechanism for pre-boarding requires zero medical documentation.
We just ask.
You approach the podium and self-identify by stating, "I need additional time to get settled down the jet bridge."
That's the phrase.
That specific phrase legally triggers your right to board before the general groups. It grants you a clear aisle, zero pressure from people standing behind you, and first access to the overhead bins.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Let's break down the mechanics of the 30-minute upgrade window. Because the ultimate irony of modern air travel is that understanding how the gate agent software works and simply being polite can yield better seat upgrades than spending thousands of dollars chasing frequent flyer status.
It really is wild. Think of this 30-minute window like a bakery right before closing time.
Okay.
For weeks, the centralized corporate computer rigidly controls the price of every single seat. But at exactly 30 minutes before departure, the central server hands control over to the local system at the gate.
Transfers the power.
Yes. Misconnections happen. Last-minute cancellations process. Premium seats suddenly populate as empty on the agent's screen, and that specific agent now possesses total unchecked authority to give those seats away to ensure the plane pushes back on time.
It is a massive shift in power.
Huge.
There was a 68-year-old traveler who understood this timing perfectly. She walked up quietly, exactly 30 minutes before boarding, smiled at the stressed agent, and simply asked if there happened to be any seats with extra legroom available for a senior passenger.
And it worked.
The agent typed for a few seconds and moved her from a cramped middle seat in row 37 to a premium aisle seat in row 12.
Wow.
Totally for free. Just because she understood the software handover and asked the person who held the keys.
And you know, securing that aisle seat is not just about stretching your legs. It is a vital component of in-flight health.
Right.
We really must address the 1-hour rule.
Let's get into it.
The environmental control systems on commercial aircraft maintain a cabin pressure equivalent to 8,000 feet of altitude.
Which is pretty high.
It is. The air is exceptionally thin and dry, which actively thickens your blood. The physiological risk of developing deep vein thrombosis, or DVT, is severely elevated for older passengers.
So what's the protocol?
The rule dictates that you must physically move your legs every single hour to force blood circulation back up to your heart.
So unless the captain has turned on the fasten seatbelt sign for severe turbulence, you need to stand up, walk to the lavatory, do ankle circles.
Anything to keep moving.
Additionally, the baseline strategy is wearing 20-30 millimeter HG graduated compression socks.
Yes, those are essential.
They mechanically compress the leg veins to keep the blood flowing upward. And here's a brilliant tech integration for 2026. If you wear a smartwatch, ensure the fall detection feature is actively enabled.
Oh, that's smart.
If you experience a drop in blood pressure, get dizzy, and fall on your way to the lavatory, the watch instantly uses the plane's Wi-Fi to alert your emergency contacts.
That could literally save a life. But before we finalize the flight plan, we have to unpack a massive invisible data flaw.
The code share trap.
The code share trap. Let's say you purchase a ticket through the Delta website, but the actual physical airplane you are flying on is operated by their partner, Air France.
I am fascinated by this because it seems like such an easy place for the system to break. Why is this so dangerous?
And all comes down to legacy data architecture.
Okay.
The passenger name record, or PNR systems, that airlines use were largely built in the 1980s.
The 80s.
Yeah. So when you request a wheelchair on Delta, the computer generates a special service request, an SSR code.
Got it.
But Delta's database often physically cannot translate that specific SSR code into the Air France database. The connection just drops.
So you just disappear from the system.
Exactly. You show up in Paris, and the Air France crew has absolutely no record that you require a wheelchair.
Wow.
To bypass this trap, you must manually call both the ticketing airline and the operating airline to ensure the code was hard-coded into both systems.
That is a staggering technical vulnerability.
It happens every day.
So we have mapped out the defense against the booking engines, the luggage algorithms, and the legacy software.
We covered a lot.
But what happens when the entire system physically breaks down? When a massive storm hits and delays ripple across the country, your previously registered needs suddenly transform into your ultimate VIP pass.
They really do, because automated reaccommodation software is designed to handle mass cancellations by processing passengers in a specific hierarchy. If you registered for mobility assistance or a medical exemption, federal law requires the airline's algorithm to prioritize you.
So you jump the line.
You do. While hundreds of people are standing in an endless customer service line, the system spots your SSR code and automatically bumps you to the top of the rebooking queue.
And when you are stuck, there is a layer of hidden delay compensation.
The compensation rules are crucial.
If a flight is delayed by 3 hours or more due to an issue within the airline's direct control, like a mechanical failure, you are legally entitled to meal vouchers, hotel accommodations, and ground transportation.
Most people don't know that.
They don't. A retired couple in Boston recently spent $180 of their own money on a hotel room, simply because they did not know the airline was federally required to absorb that cost.
And the airline isn't going to volunteer that information. It is entirely incumbent on the passenger to demand the compensation.
Right.
Furthermore, internal airline operations manuals contain unspoken guidelines that grant senior travelers additional flexibility outside of the strict federal rules. Like discretionary power.
Exactly. A 68-year-old traveler facing a massive delay calmly approached the podium, explained her age, and mentioned she would miss a critical medical appointment the next morning.
And what did the agent do?
The agent, utilizing their discretionary authority, instantly issued a $50 meal voucher, printed a VIP lounge pass, and manually rebooked her onto a competitor's airline.
But wait, airlines constantly use weather as a blanket excuse.
All the time.
If the airline blames a 5-hour delay on a thunderstorm, does that immediately void all of these compensation rights? Are you just out of luck?
Officially, yes. A genuine weather delay does void the mandatory federal compensation for hotels. The airline cannot control the sky.
Fair enough.
However, this is where that unspoken senior flexibility still applies. Gate agents retain the unilateral authority to issue courtesy perks during irregular operations, regardless of the weather.
That is when you deploy the magic phrase.
Lay it on us. If you are staring down a grueling delay, approach the desk and state, "I am a senior traveler seeking the full compensation available under your customer service plan."
It's formal, but it works.
Or, more directly, "Is there any way I could access a lounge to rest safely and comfortably during this delay?"
Just ask.
You would be utterly shocked at how often the agent, recognizing a calm, informed passenger will simply print out a $60 day pass and hand it to you for free.
Because the entire system is built to reward the traveler who knows exactly how the software works and exactly what to ask for.
Right. If you remain silent, the automated process will simply leave you sitting on an uncomfortable metal bench near the gate for 8 hours.
It doesn't care about you unless you make it care.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Over the course of this deep dive, we have completely reconstructed your approach to air travel.
We really tore it down to the studs.
You are now armed with the exact verbiage, the mechanical understanding of the airline's algorithms, and the digital workarounds required to turn a hostile 2026 airport into a manageable, dignified environment.
That's the goal.
From forcing the search engines to reveal hidden fares, to utilizing the physical paper pass, to commanding the 30-minute upgrade window, it is entirely about possessing the confidence to claim the rights that are already legally yours.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, every single time you politely but firmly assert these rights, you are doing more than just improving your own vacation. You are providing the data the airlines need to justify maintaining these services. By forcing the system to recognize you, you are actively paving the way for a more accessible, humane travel industry for every generation that follows.
And that leaves us with a fascinating, slightly provocative thought to mull over before you pack for your next flight.
Let's hear it.
As the massive aviation industry relentlessly accelerates toward total AI automation, robotic bag drops, and terminals entirely devoid of human staff, will the massive, incredibly wealthy demographic of senior travelers eventually force the airlines to hit the brakes?
It's a real possibility.
Will premium human-only travel experiences where the ultimate luxury is simply speaking to a real, empathetic human being become the most expensive upgrade of the future?
It might just be.
It is something to seriously consider the next time you bypass the glowing kiosks, step through that hidden door, and confidently claim your rights.
Safe travels out there.